Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Catherine Walters, the Joy Coach, and I'm so excited. I even see I can hardly talk because I am so blessed to welcome our guest today, but I'll get to that in a moment. As I tell you that we are here once again for Joyful You Too, and I'm so thrilled to be sharing this summit with you because I've invited over 21, I think it was 22 actually, wonderful, amazing speakers that are here to share their tools, tips, strategies about how we can be more creative, fun, playful, so that we're connected to our authentic joy and ourselves that it's already inside of us. And with me today is the wonderful Miss Terri Britt. And we were laughing, Terri can just go in about that before. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about Terri. I could go on and on, but I won't. She's a former Miss USA, and she has been enlightening and empowering women to take back the authority in their lives and become leaders of love for over 2 decades. Terri is an inspirational speaker, love expert, energetic healer, and change agent for women, as well as being a wife, a mom, a stepmom, and for former entertainment news anchor. She's done everything, really. Okay, she's an award-winning author of The Enlightened Mom. And let me see what else do I want to say about her. Is there anything else you want me to say about you, Terri?
I just have
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's wonderful. So welcome, Terri. Thank you.
There's lots of things lots of people could say, but we might not want to say them here, okay?
And this is how we start, folks. We can't help it because we start laughing and when we get together and we're just in joy. What can we say?
Oh, God, we do. When we get together, you guys, it's so crazy. It's just like one goofy thing after another. I can't imagine if we lived in the same community, we would never get anything done.
No, that's probably true because we would just want to laugh all the time. But, so please laugh with us because actually I will share with you that we tried this once before and we thought we went through the whole interview, only it didn't record. A little glip on my part and, with a little help from Terri, honestly. She was definitely a part of it. But we just laughed at it and said, okay, we get to play again. So Terri, as I said, I'm just so thrilled that you're here because you've had your ups and downs and just all sorts of things with life. And yet you are just so full of joy. So how do you do that?
Oh my goodness, there's so many ways. Sometimes I go in my room and scream. No, I have done a lot of that in the past. Luckily, I don't have much to do that nowadays. How I do that is for me, I see everything as an opportunity to go closer to God and to my heart. Instead of feeling like a victim to life circumstances, every time something happens, I say, okay, what's the gift? What is this trying to show me about myself? Because I know energetically that if something is showing up in my life that's hard, it's because I'm holding a subconscious belief that says life has to be hard. And so I take it as the opportunity to go within, look at what exactly is the belief that's being reflected, and I clean it up. And so then now I don't feel like a victim. I feel like life is this golden opportunity for me to go deeper into loving myself. And in that loving of myself, I get closer to God and the universe and everything that's around me. And I feel one with it all. And that's how you feel joyful.
Exactly. Because I love how, you don't just blip off this mood or whatever, but you take it as an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, it is. When my daughters are grown, they're in their 20s now. And of course, in their 20s, you're hearing all the drama of the 20s. And we don't get to slide, Mom. And I'm like, no, you don't get to slide. Because if they come to me with an issue that's going on, I say, what's the mirror? What's going on? What is the gift in this? How is this going to take you deeper? And then also what I try to inspire in them is not only is it going to take you deeper, but how is this going to help you serve others? So whatever story you're going through, if you can turn it from a victim mentality to an empowerment mentality and know that at some point you can help someone else, then it all makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for many of us, we have all these life lessons so that we can serve others.
Yeah, absolutely. When I look at my life and I look at how I went from this crazed, emotionally angst-ridden woman who was always angry, beating up my boyfriend years ago, and then carrying that anger into my marriage and feeling like I was a failure as a mother, and into making the decision of, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to heal. I'm going to learn what's causing my pain and angst. And then to be able to show women that we all need to be loved and nurtured. We all need to be mothered the way I was shown to mother my children and to mother myself, that we're all craving that. Right. And that we're still expecting people to do it for us, like we expect our mothers to have done it for us and our dads to have done it for us. And they can't do it for us because we have to do it for ourselves. So for me, it's always about, how do I take those hard times and learn to love myself deeper? And if everybody took that attitude, there would be no victim mentality. We would move out of competition, greed. We'd move out of all those energies that say it's you against me. Right. Because when you're loving yourself, there is no separation. And so now you're saying, I love me. Now I want you to love you. Right?
Totally. And it really is that. And so it's that. And that's when you're in your authentic joy. Is when you're just loving yourself, and then that radiates out from our hearts. So Terri, one of the things that you work with, with women is our worthiness, because so many of us, myself included, I know you've struggled with it as well. We don't feel worthy or deserving. So how does that affect how we feel, our experience of joy and creativity and play and all the rest?
Well, when you don't feel worthy, what we're really saying is you don't feel enough. And I mean, how many of you can raise your hand and say, yes, I felt that, because I know I have, and I know you have. We've all had those feelings and still have those feelings at times of, am I enough?
Totally.
I think it's part of the human condition. And so when we look at our worthiness, and when I talk about the worthiness quotient, we're talking about how open are you to receiving love, nurturing, and support from people around you, from the universe? How open are you to receiving miracles? Okay? Because that's what we really want, is we want life to flow with grace and ease, which is miracles.
Exactly.
So our worthiness is, we tend to put it out on what others think of us. And we're programmed as children to say, people tell us, be good, do it right, work hard, and then you will have life's rewards. Well, what that does energetically is actually sets us up for failure, because, as you know, Catherine, is that when we separate from who we are, that's where our pain and our suffering stem from, right? So if we are coming from the space of, I have to do it right and get it right, which is what we women do. I have to put myself on the back burner, which is what we women do. I have to be the nurturer of everyone else. Then what we actually do is we energetically lower our worthiness quotients, because as we treat ourselves as if we don't matter, we separate from who we are, and in that separation is where our pain and suffering stem from. So to raise our worthiness quotients, we have to love ourselves unconditionally and go into alignment with God, and that's where the joy is. So when I talk about the worthiness quotient, I say to women, I say, look at your life. How does it feel on a daily basis? Are you reacting negatively a lot? Are you angry? Are you judgmental? Are you feeling sad, depressed? Do you feel like people don't hear you? Do you feel like you can't break through your glass ceilings at work? All of those are signs that your worthiness quotient is low, or maybe not low, but medium. You want it to be high, and right?
Absolutely.
So when I say, when things show up that are hard, I look at it as an opportunity to say, oh, it's time to raise my worthiness quotient, because if this is showing up, my worthiness is not as high as it could be, because I know that energetically, how I'm loving myself is going to attract similar energies. That's science. We know that. Yeah. So if I'm attracting things that are hard, that tells me that my worthiness, my ability to receive love, nurturing, and support is not very good in this particular situation. So that gives me the sign to say, okay, it's time to love myself unconditionally. It's time for me to go within and clean up the crap that's causing this to show up. So as I do that, and I go in and I clean up the beliefs that are causing this low energetic vibration, then I love myself unconditionally. I raise my worthiness quotient, and now I open up to receive all the miracles. And that's where you get peaceful. You start feeling passionate. You're in trust, and all of those things. That's where the joy comes from.
Absolutely. And I mean, and it's really important for us to recognize, because the world is showing us. I mean, our outer world, our experience is showing us, you may feel, and I know it's interesting, our worthiness quotient, like it's almost, it's separate, it's different in each area of our lives. Like, I mean, from my experience, like you can feel really great about your own self, and then yet for your work or for your love relationships or your health, your worthiness quotient could be lower or higher than another area.
Absolutely. And I have a worthiness quotient quiz, which is really cool. And we go into every one of those areas that people can look at it and say, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. Okay, how am I in my relationships? How am I in my love life? How am I in my work and my career? Am I open to passion? Am I open to miracles? And we go through these. It's a very quick, but you could take this quiz and it will tell you where your worthiness quotient sits overall and what you can do to shift it.
Oh, awesome. So Terri, is that something that will be available to the listeners?
Yeah. You can go to terribritt.com/quiz.
Okay, perfect. Well, no, because seriously, Terri, I mean, I think that we're opening up something that we maybe necessarily didn't intend to, but I think that's really important because if we're talking about a worthiness quotient, we need to know where we stand.
Yeah, and I think that most people, this is what's really interesting, Catherine. Most people say, yes, I deserve abundance. I deserve all that the universe has to offer. And then in this deep sense inside, you go, but why is it not showing up? What's wrong with me? What is happening? Or I don't get why these things aren't working. But oftentimes we get into a place of it just settling and we don't even realize what's showing up in our lives. So the quiz is really cool because it makes you take a hard look, but it's good. It's really good because you'll see the breakdown of where your worthiness quotient is really strong and where you're really needing to love yourself more. And that's all it comes down to, because it's not about saying, oh, you're not worthy. No, it's saying it's time for you to love yourself more. That's what it comes down to.
And that's so key because it's really, I mean, that's what we get to do in every area of our lives. And we also get to forgive ourselves, if we start judging ourselves or whatever, that we're not like over across the board, just fantastic, that we just can let that go and just love ourselves more. Because it's really, that love is where the joy is.
Absolutely. The love is where the joy is. And I think that's where most people miss it. Most people think the joy is out here. If I go looking for love outside of myself, then I will find the joy. And I know from my own experience, what I found was anger. Because as I kept looking, what I was doing was trying to prove myself. And then for me, that meant let me be the best. Let me try to win everything, be the best at everything in school and work. And the more I stayed on that perpetual hamster wheel of trying to prove myself, the more angry I got. And what's interesting is that anger energy and that sense that I have to prove myself, you come from a space of guilt because you're saying I'm not enough. So it's actually your actions that are sending out the energetic message that I'm not enough. And so as you do that, then you perpetuate it more because you attract things that are hard because you're coming from very, very low vibration. So your goal is to get to a place of, I've got to love myself.
Yeah.
I've got to love myself to get off the hamster wheel. I've got to get into alignment. And then here's the cool thing. This is what I love, is that when we do this, see, we women, we've been so programmed to be good, put yourself, on the back burner, and that this is love. It's not love at all, because if it's perpetuating anger and sadness and depression and judgment, then that's what people are watching and learning from you. They're saying, oh, this is love. This is what I'm supposed to do. And then you've got dysfunction and no one's happy. But when you say, I'm going to love myself, I'm going to raise my worthiness quotient and open up to receive a life of miracles and abundance, then you become that example for others. You become a woman leader of love, right? And so this is what we all crave, and there's not enough of us doing it. It's like it's time. It's time for women to step up and say no more. But I think we've been doing that since the 60s, but here's the problem. There's still been guilt energy related to it. And the guilt energy is I've got to do it like a man. I've got to claim it. I've got to fight for it. Well, that's saying that me being a woman and who I am is not me. So once again, we're sitting in the guilt energy. So the divine energy that we're craving as women is to be in that receptive, nurturing, loving, compassionate, passionate, dynamic, whatever that looks like for you, and then be that expression in the world. But it's that combination of the divine feminine and the masculine. And where we've missed it in our feminist movement is we went straight to the masculine. Yeah. And we missed the feminine. And that's why our world is really off kilter right now.
Right. So and that's why your work, especially with women, is really bringing it back, so that helping women getting in touch with their divine feminine and experiencing that love for themselves. Because, let's face it, women are instrumental, aren't they? In not only in their homes, but in our businesses. So how do we women change the world?
Well, we do it by loving ourselves. I mean, that's what people miss. I mean, the way we have been taught that to be good and loving means to put yourself on the back burner is the exact opposite of what we need to do to help change the world. What we've been doing is perpetuating a cycle of pain and suffering, like I just said a second ago, because our kids watch us and learn, our spouses watch us and learn, and then everybody says, oh, this is what love is. I'm not supposed to say what I need. I'm not supposed to love myself. And then it perpetuates and perpetuates, and then you create more people like me. You create people who are competing, trying to be the best, and then you create people who don't even try at all.
Yep.
And, and then there's, of course, those in the middle, but this is what women don't understand, is that we've been so programmed to be good and seeing that good equals loving, and it is not loving. If I can get any message across to anybody, it is not loving, because it creates pain and suffering.
Yep. Exactly. That's why I asked you to dive in deeper to it, because that's what we're perpetuating. And it's our opportunity as women now to really help shift the world. And it's about, we get to speak up for ourselves. We get to, like we talked earlier, we get to say no and have boundaries, or we get to say yes when it's yes to ourselves, or just doing those loving things like taking time for ourselves and, not putting ourselves on the back burner. We get to do this. Not only do we get to, we need to for our planet.
We need to, Catherine, and we need to do it without guilt. I think that is the real key.
Without
because
guilt.
what people understand is that there's a book called Power versus Force by a Dr. David Hawkins, and he was a doctor, and they calibrated emotions, right? And so guilt and shame are the two lowest emotions that they've calibrated. When we do these things, oh, I have a voice, I'm saying what I need, but yet you're holding anger, you're holding judgment, you're holding guilt, because there's a part of you that deep down inside says, well, you're not supposed to be rocking the boat. Right. Or you're not supposed to have a voice because that's the way you were raised. Or maybe you weren't raised that way, but school taught you that. Or you see your friends doing that, so you're thinking, I'm different. There's something wrong with me. And we do this head game with ourselves. And that creates guilt energy. That's that low energy again. And so once again, you're not open to receive. You have a low worthiness quotient when you're coming from a space of guilt. Our goal is to get out of guilt.
Yep.
Our guilt, when we can move into alignment without guilt, and we can move into alignment and say, I love myself unconditionally, I am enough, and I'm celebrating me. I'm celebrating that I am okay, and I can receive simply for being me, then I can give more. That's where the magic shows up, and that's where the joy is, and that's what we all want, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, you can see it as soon as you said, I'm celebrating me, and I'm celebrating. You could see that you demonstrated how your energy shifted.
Yeah. Because when you start saying that, you're going, I have this little song that came to me one day, and it's on my website, but I was rubbing my doggies' bellies, and I'm always singing songs, and you're going to have to forgive my singing, but
go for it.
I receive abundance simply for being me. I give and receive it freely with grace and ease. And then I go, I receive abundance simply for being me. I give and receive it freely with grace and ease. And the point of that is, if you break it down, it says, I receive abundance simply for being me. Yeah. I give and receive it freely with grace and ease, meaning that I'm enough. I receive simply for being me. And in this space of love, I have so much more to give. I'm not coming from an empty cup. I'm coming up from so much fullness that it starts with me loving myself first.
Absolutely. And that unconditional piece without the guilt. So I'm really glad you explained that more. So Terri, let's talk a little bit more about fun and play and creativity, because that's really kind of natural for women, yet many of us are so either crazy busy, or again, we put ourselves on the back burner, and we don't allow ourselves time for those things. So how can we, tap into our that playful side of us and that creative part of us?
Well, for me, it showed up through talking to little Terri, and it wasn't something that I planned. It was just one day I was meditating and she showed up, and I was like, whoa! I was crying, and that was the beginning of my first book, Message Sent, where I became the observer to my life and how I was being so hard on that little girl instead of nurturing her. And for me, as I started making that commitment to love her and to nurture her, then it became more playful, and especially with my children, because I started watching them and allowed myself to be fully present with them. I mean, they're in their 20s now. This was 20 something years ago, right? But I started allowing myself to be playful and just to allow that little girl to come out. I remember one day I was coaching a woman. She was in one of my classes, and we were talking about playfulness. It was I think it was that particular session of the class, and she said she had just gone to do an art festival with her son. And as he was playing in the art, she went to put her hands in it, and she couldn't, because she had so many beliefs that she couldn't be messy. She couldn't be creative. And she sat there and sobbed like a baby. She said she sobbed at the art festival. And then she talked herself through it and talked to her little girl and said, I give you permission. So we have to become the authorities of our lives and start taking back our power and saying, no, we don't do this anymore. I don't do that persecution and punishment energy anymore, which is when we don't play and when we're not creative. That's punishment energy.
Yep.
We're told as children, be good. If not, you're going to be punished.
Yep.
So we continue to punish ourselves. So we don't play. We don't have fun. We don't do the things we want to do because we're still holding that punishment mentality. So as women leaders of love, we have to go and say, done here. I'm not being in punishment energy anymore. Right?
Yep.
I'm going to be in love energy. I'm going to be in love mode, and I'm going to be in creative mode, and I'm going to be in play mode. And then you have to ask what that is for you. And I do it by talking to little Terri. I look at her and say, what is it that you need from me to feel loved, protected, and nurtured? And I ask her what she needs to feel connected, or what she needs to do to go play. For me, dancing is a big thing. I love to dance. I love to be out in the woods. I live up on a mountain on a 1-lane dirt road. And I love to go out and talk to the trees and talk to the animal spirit guides and all the energies that I see around me. That to me is playtime. I love that. So whatever it is that works for you, but you have to figure out what that is. And then you have to give yourself permission to go there. Because if you're not, it's because someone's still in your mind being the boss, and you're still coming from a space of punishment energy.
Definitely. And it's just, to me, it's like, I don't know. I was always blessed. I don't think I ever really completely disconnected with my play energy, simply because I worked with children for many years. But it's just such a joy. I mean, I love when my inner child comes out, or that playful, silly part of me. I'll even do it with myself or with my cat, and it's just it's so uplifting. And whether it's, fun words that I make up or whatever, but it's just so nurturing. You feel, no matter what's happening in your life, you feel better when you do these things.
Yes, you do. And I think it really comes because when you look at energy, and we talked about the levels of energy, when you look at playfulness and you look at being in that joy energy, that is a really high.
It's the highest. It's like 600.
I know.
Yeah,
exactly, on the map of consciousness. And what's so interesting about that is when you go in that, I mean, how many times have you been in a creative space or been in a playful space, and all of a sudden you get a hit? Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, I wish I would have thought of that earlier. Because what's happening energetically is you are now open to receive.
Yeah.
When you're in that playful, connected space, you're coming from spirit. You're being in a space of, I am enough. Okay, unless you get that guilt energy going on at the same time, saying, well, I should be going washing my dishes or something like that. But if you can be in that playful space and have fun, you're now in that connected space. You're coming from a high worthiness quotient. You're open to receive, and then that's when you can get divine downloads.
Absolutely.
It's really cool.
It really is good, but it's so important. That's why we really encourage people, the people that are listening, to get into that space where you do feel great, where you are allowed, so you can allow yourself to receive, because that's when all the gifts, well, many gifts come, not all the gifts, but many gifts come then.
Sure. And Catherine, what I'm hearing right now, because I'm always listening for divine guidance, is we really have to understand how we punish ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
I see this all the time. And when I teach my worthiness quotient courses, I mean, this is a big part that we clear out, is punishment energy and guilt energy, because we are so programmed in our society that you either do good or you get punished.
Yep.
What is good? In your mind, it might be one standard, and for someone else, it might be another standard. And it is that punishment energy. And I want to tell you a little story. Years ago, when I was just starting into all of this, I kept feeling anxiety. Okay, I wasn't having a lot of fun. I was feeling a lot of anxiety. And I felt it, I didn't call it anxiety, but it felt like more of this energy that was racing through me that felt really uncomfortable. I think if I'd gone to a doctor, they would have said, oh, you've got anxiety. For about 2 years, every time I went to the grocery store, every time I went to the bank, I would feel this anytime out in public, now, except for when I was talking in front of people. Go figure, like a speaking engagement, because I did stuff back then. And at first I judged it. I really judged it, and I kept saying, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And then finally I heard one day in my ear, embrace this, see it as a gift. And this is when I was first learning that, right? Mm-hmm. So I imagine just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you for the gift. And I did that for about 2 months. Finally, one morning, I am at an office superstore buying some stuff, and I feel it again. And there's not a soul in the store except for me and a cashier. And I'm thinking, what is going on? I mean, it was driving me nuts. I had talked to doctors, not like psychologists, but doctors. What's wrong with, what's this energy? Oh, they didn't say anything about it. I talked to my healer friends. Nobody could tell me anything. So that day, I'm standing there, and I lean over my shopping cart, and I'm looking at little Terri, the little 5-year-old inside of me, because I have a relationship with her. And I said, what's hurting? What's hurting that's causing you to react this way? And in my mind's eye, I see her looking at me going, when I go out into public, I have to act perfectly or I get into big trouble.
Wow.
There was that punishment energy. And so in that moment, what I realized is that this fear of being punished and not doing it right was what had been driving me and continued to drive me for years. But in that particular instance, what happened is I looked at little Terri and I said, I'm the boss now. And I said, if you need to do cartwheels down this aisle to get rid of this, then let's do it. And what was interesting, even though I still had a tendency to perform and try to win people's approval, that anxiety feeling I was feeling went away just like that.
Wow.
In that moment, because I recognized the belief, I have to act perfectly when I go out into public or I get into big trouble, all about punishment. And I took back my power and said, I'm the boss now. And I shifted it just like that. I shifted it. And it's amazing to me because when you're reacting that way, you're being triggered in your subconscious mind. We know that, right?
Right.
But it was what blew my mind is that I could shift that just by recognizing the belief and taking back my power.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it often is that quick. I mean, but it's you are so wise, and that part of you was just one, you were ready to heal it, but also it was just but it came up for such a long for quite a while though too. If you had anxiety for 2 years and then you're really going through this, so but how beautiful that and I love that you modeled for us that once you you don't ignore it, you don't push it away, you don't shove it back, you don't say, okay, I'll get to this later, or I'll get to it when I'm in the car. I love it how you just took the time right then.
Yes.
In a very private way, but was really heard your inner child.
Yes.
And then was able to respond to her in a way that was appropriate and take back your power. And then you can see it is by doing it, it's it is magic.
It is. Yes. And what's I think so key here is those first 2 years I was in resistance because I was judging it. I was judging myself instead of loving myself. And that's the difference here, you guys, because when you judge yourself, what they say, what you resist persists, it will. And that's what happened for me. Instead of saying, what's going on here? What's hurting? I didn't do that. I kept saying, what's wrong with me? Why am I doing this? I shouldn't be feeling this way. It was judgmental. But as soon as I heard, embrace this, see it as a gift. And I went, oh. And then I started saying, thank you for the gift. Thank you. Every time I felt it, thank you for the gift. And then when I finally asked the question, what's hurting? What's hurting inside of you that's causing you to react this way? Not with judgment, but with compassion and love for myself. And the key here is that I recognized that I had a belief that I would be punished. And that was the beginning for me of recognizing that punishment energy was a big part of my life. That's why there was no joy. That's why there was not a lot of play, because I saw that my whole life had been living on a hamster wheel as punishment. Eating all those cookies because you're not saying your voice is punishment. Not going and asking for a raise when you know you deserve it is punishment.
Absolutely.
Staying in a dead-end relationship is punishment. So it was recognizing how I punished myself in so many different ways that then I started moving those out and looking at what is the belief behind each of them. That's where I found my joy. That's where I found my playfulness, because I could trust that, yeah, I can be playful and I'm not going to get punished.
Right. And that's a big, and it also seems that, well, we women probably have it in so many areas of like not taking time for ourselves again, because, you know, it just fits everything way we've been taught to people please or overachieve or whatever. It most likely comes back to this judgment, punishment, or guilt energy that we've been talking about here. And so it's really, so what do you recommend, Terri, for that we do a process like you've said, like you did, or people get, if they need help, you know, get a coach or a mentor that can help them get through this, because it's easy to clear up when you know what to do, or you work with someone that can help you.
Absolutely. And like with the worthiness quotient, I mean, I teach courses and stuff on this, but any coach can help you with this. But the point is that you want to get to that place of compassion and love, unconditional love. If you can think of it as this way, as unconditional love equals abundance. So if you're in a space of unconditional love for yourself, that means you have inner abundance, which now attracts outer abundance. And that's when the miracles show up. Because I could tell you miracle story after miracle story after miracle story in my life. And we're not even really discussing that today. We're just discussing why we're not seeing the miracles, and why we're not joyful and playful, because that's where the miracles show up, right?
Exactly.
But you really want, if I could give you anything, it would be that go into recognition of how you're punishing yourself.
Yeah.
Really start taking your blinders off and say, oh, that's punishment. That's punishment. Yeah. And what I do, or what I did when I was going through this, when I was going into awareness, I'd say, that's punishment. I don't do that anymore. That's punishment. I don't do that anymore. And so I made a list of the things where I punished myself. And I really went into awareness of, this is punishment energy. This is saying that I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. And then I would ask, okay, so what would love look like? Not dysfunctional love that we've been trained to believe what love is, but what would real love look like? Real love would be, oh, I stop eating those cookies and I go give myself a voice. I go ask for that raise. I get out of this dead-end relationship and love myself. That's what real love looks like. And that's where the joy comes from.
Right. Well, Terri, thank you for breaking that down, because that was a really great way that it always starts with awareness. And then when you gave us that tip of saying, you know, that's punishment and I don't do that anymore. And just the awareness alone is a great start. And then people can go from there. But we could go on and on forever, as I know you and I would both love to. So we'll just have this another conversation at some future date, which is fun to look forward to. But for right now, can you share your free gift? I know it's something about the worthiness quotient.
Yes, I have the Worthiness Quotient Breakthrough Bundle, and I have an ebook, and it was a divine download, you guys. I felt there was this ebook coming, and I started to write it, and I got no, and the next morning I am meditating, and I feel Michael, the Archangel, come in, and then I came up and wrote it within a few days. It's 20 pages, easy read. It's called Women Leaders of Love, How to End the Number One Massive Mistake Women Make and Unleash Your Greatest Act of Service. And it is exactly what we've been talking about, but I break it down. It's the number one massive mistake is being good.
Yep.
And your greatest act of service is when you love yourself unconditionally. But I go into the energy of it. I explain it. It's an easy read. It's going to help get grounded. And then there's 3 meditations that come with it so that you can really see what your vision is. So it's vision, truth, and purpose. What your vision is for your life. And I take you through some meditations, and then the truth of who you are and your purpose. And it's so fun. In this last meditation, I take you to look at the other people's spirits that you're concerned about, where you stand in your truth and love yourself and really get joyful and connected, because oftentimes we don't do it because we're concerned that it's going to hurt someone or how it's going to affect them. I take you into a meditation to look at their spirit and to see what the gift is that you're giving them, which is really cool. So they get that.
It is wonderful. Everyone, I've downloaded it from Terri, and the ebook is fabulous. The meditations are fabulous, Terri. I mean, they really are. They're just like the perfect length, and they just take you into that deep place quickly, and you've really got tremendous information. So thank you for sharing that.
Let me give them the URL because I didn't give them the URL.
Oh, yes, please do.
It's terribritt.com/leaders, and it's just TERRIBRITT. .com/leaders, and for women leaders of love. And then of course, if you want to take the quiz, it's terribritt.com/quiz.
Okay, great. And those will be on the page. I don't know about, well, you can put the quiz one on too. So fabulous, Terri. Always thank you for sharing. Thank you for the gift that you are, and how you are just sharing your love as service to all is just a joy, just beautiful energy. So thank you. So I said she's wonderful. And so come listen to this again. Definitely get Terri's free gifts. They are just absolutely fabulous, as I mentioned, because I've shared, experienced them already, and maybe I'll go back and do them again. At any rate, thank you again for being here. Until I see you again, namaste.
Bye, everybody.